I arrived an hour early, the bakery box balanced on my palms, white cardboard tied with thin gold cord. Inside sat her favorite, strawberry layers with light cream and candied petals. The woman at the counter had smiled when I rang up. "Someone's lucky," she'd said. "My daughter, it's her birthday." "She must be special. That'll be $200. I didn't flinch. Birthdays deserve care. I've always believed that. The drive to Erin's house took 20 minutes through suburbs that all looked the same. Big windows, two-car garages, lawns cut to regulation height. I'd helped with the down payment on this house 5 years ago. $150,000 from my retirement savings. I remember the day we signed the papers. Erin had cried happy tears and Mark had promised they'd never forget what I'd done. I pulled into the driveway at 1:15. The party didn't start until 2:30, but I wanted time. Time to set up the cake properly, maybe help with the last-minute details. That's what mothers do. Erin opened the door like someone greeting a delivery driver. Her mouth lifted at the corners, but her eyes stayed flat. "You're early," she said. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. I brought the cake. They had the candied petals just like you wanted." She stepped aside without hugging me. I walked past her into the living room I'd seen 100 times. The one with the gray sofa I'd helped buy. The picture windows I'd admired. The entire house I'd made possible. "Set it in the kitchen," Erin said, already turning away. "No, thank you. No, Mom, you shouldn't have. Just instructions." I placed the box on the granite island and untied the gold cord with careful fingers. My hands were shaking slightly. At 72, your hands shake sometimes. That's what I told myself. "I thought we could light candles after dinner," I said, keeping my voice bright. "Mark could grill. We could eat in the yard like last year." Erin leaned against the counter, arms crossed over her chest. "We need to talk before people arrive." "Of course. Whatever you want, honey." The house smelled like lemon cleaner and something else. Something sharp. Tension, maybe, though that sounds dramatic. I'm not a dramatic person. 40 years as a nurse teaches you to stay calm. I followed Erin back to the living room. She remained standing. I sat on the edge of the gray sofa, my purse on my lap like a shield. The silence stretched between us like taffy. Then she spoke. "I've been thinking about what would make me happy," Erin said. Her voice was level, practiced. "Gifts, trips, jewelry, cars, they all feel childish now." "Tell me what you want," I said. "I'll do my best." Her eyes met mine, clear, hard, like marbles. "The one thing I want most," she said slowly, "is for you to just die." The words landed clean. No traffic noise outside, no dog barking, no lawnmower humming. Just that sentence, simple as a grocery list. Something inside me slammed shut, like a door in an empty house. "What?" The word came out thin. "What did you say?" "I mean it." She didn't blink. "I'm tired, Mom. I'm exhausted by your calls, your pop-ins, your opinions on everything. It would be easier if you were gone." My hands gripped my knees. I could feel the tremor spreading from my right thumb up my wrist. I thought about the cake in the kitchen, the petals already sweating in the heat, the gold cord lying useless on the counter. I thought about standing at a hospital sink 40 years ago, washing my hands between rounds, making plans. Plans to save money so my daughter wouldn't have to start life already tired. "I called to check on you," I said quietly. "Not to control you. You call to remind me I owe you." Erin's voice went sharp. "You paid for things and now you hover like a hall monitor counting demerits." I want to be happy, Mom. Happy people don't have a 70-something woman dropping by 3 times a week. Happy people don't get texts at 6 a.m. about vitamins and insurance. I text early because I wake early. You can answer later, or not at all. "I don't want to have to manage you," she said. "I don't want you in this house unless invited. I don't want your advice. I don't want to owe you for anything else. Ever." Sunlight threw a pale square across the carpet. A speck of dust drifted through it, slow and bright. I wished I could rewind the hour, get back in my car, drive home, pretend I'd never heard these words. "Is this about money?" I asked. "Because if it is, we can sit down with someone, put everything in writing." Erin looked toward the kitchen. "It's not about anything specific," she said. "I told you what would make me happy. You asked. I asked for a birthday wish, not a death sentence." Her mouth twisted. half smile, half something else. Don't be dramatic. Obviously, I'm not saying do it. I'm saying it would be easier. Easier. The word sat on my tongue like a pill I couldn't swallow. Outside, Mark's car pulled into the driveway. Engine cut, door slammed. Erin stood up and smoothed her dress. Let's not make a scene, okay? I don't want him upset before guests arrive. You invited people? My voice sounded distant. Just a few. It's fine. It wasn't fine. But I nodded. Because the alternative was screaming, and I don't scream. Not at work, not at church, not with my child. The front door opened. Mark came in carrying groceries, flushed from the heat. He grinned when he saw me, then looked at Erin, then back at me. The grin edged down. June, he said carefully. You're early. I wanted to set up the cake. It's in the kitchen. Nice. He said it like someone remembering their lines. Erin drifted past him to the island, lifted the bakery box lid, and stared at the strawberry layers like they were homework. Can you put this in the fridge? She asked him. I stood. I should go. Mom, Erin started. It's all right. You have guests coming. I'll come back tomorrow. We can talk when you're not hosting. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She was good at that, choosing when to perform and when to drop the curtain. Mark took the cake to the refrigerator. The gold cord stayed on the counter like something broken. At the door, I paused. I never meant for you to feel managed, I said. I wanted you to feel supported. There's a difference. Erin didn't answer. Her eyes moved over me like I was furniture. Outside, the afternoon was too bright. I walked to my car slowly, deliberately, shoulders even, breaths measured, the way I'd learned to walk carrying medication trays, controlled, no sudden movements. The drive home was short. I kept both hands on the wheel and repeated each action aloud. Signal, turn, brake, park. When I cut the engine, the silence was louder than the road had been. My apartment is small. 1 bedroom, a galley kitchen, a living area with an oak table where I pay bills. I've lived here since I retired from the hospital 3 years ago. After my husband died, I downsized. Didn't need all that space just for me. I still own my old studio apartment across town. I rent it out to a young couple for extra income. Nothing fancy, but it keeps things stable. I sat at the oak table and pulled a clean notepad from the drawer. At the top of the first page, I wrote, House under it. I wrote, $50,000. I drew a box around the number. My hands stopped shaking. I didn't keep writing. Not yet. Numbers usually calm me, but I wasn't ready for calm. I was ready for honesty. I stood, made tea, drank it standing at the window, looking out at the street. A maple tree shaded the sidewalk. Leaves rustled in a breeze I couldn't feel from inside. I tried to imagine what kind of girl tells her mother to die. I tried to remember if I'd planted that seed without noticing. When the tea was gone, I washed the cup and returned to the table. I wrote, Cake, $200, then crossed it out. I wasn't making a ledger of spite. I was naming the corners of my life so I could stand them up again. My phone buzzed. Erin, please don't come back tonight. People are already here. Another message arrived before I could answer. Erin, we'll talk next week. Don't text Mark about this. A third. Erin, you always blow things up. Just give me space. I typed 3 different responses. Deleted all 3. Finally, I wrote, Okay. I set the phone face down on the table. From my window, I could see a slice of the street. The maple tree. A neighbor trimming his hedge. I thought about the first apartment I'd rented with my husband. The small kitchen window over the sink. The way light fell across the counter at 4 in the afternoon. I thought about Erin at 12, arranging strawberries in a circle on a store-bought cake for her friend's party. She'd worn a blue shirt with a tiny stain at the collar. She worked with her tongue peeking between her teeth. When she finished, she looked up at me. Proud. Look, she'd said. It's perfect. At 7 o'clock that evening, I lay on the couch and closed my eyes. I didn't sleep. I waited for the ache to dull. It didn't. At 9, I got up, turned on a lamp, and pulled the notepad back toward me. I flipped to a clean page and printed my name at the top. June Harper. Below it, I wrote 4 lines. 1. Call the bank in the morning 2. Ask about joint accounts 3. Ask what can be separated and how long it takes 4. Decide what is mine. The words looked strange. Private. like seeing myself in a mirror at an unfamiliar angle. My phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. A neighbor texted, "Everything okay? I saw you leave Aaron's party early." I didn't answer. I didn't want to feed the world my pain in small bites. I showered, changed into a clean nightgown, moisturized my hands, pressing my thumbs against the blue veins until the skin warmed. Then I sat back down at the table and began a list of questions I might ask a lawyer. I wasn't sure I needed one. I wasn't sure I didn't. Near midnight, I made another cup of tea and cut one square of dark chocolate. I took them to the table and wrote a sentence across the bottom of the page. I wrote it slowly, carefully, like a nurse labeling a vial. Tomorrow, I start disappearing on my terms. Morning light hit the oak table like a ruler, straight, measuring, unforgiving. I squared the notepad and opened the box of old folders I keep under my bed. Pay stubs, insurance letters, receipts folded to the size of stamps. I made 3 neat piles: health, school, household. I kept a 4th space open for everything else, the extras that became normal over the years. First stack, health. I found a pharmacy receipt from last winter. Aaron had pneumonia. I remembered standing at the counter in my scrubs, counting bills from my wallet because the card reader was down. I wrote $1,200. Antibiotics underlined it once. I pulled out another receipt. A dry cleaning ticket with a photo paperclip to it. Aaron at 17 in a white dress. Prom. I wrote $800. Prom dress extra shifts had covered it. I could still feel those shifts in my knees. Second stack, school. 4 bursar statements from the university. The envelope corners soft from opening and reopening over the years. I added the semesters on a sticky note. $42,000. Tuition and books. I wrote the number twice to make sure I was seeing it correctly. Third stack, before college. Summer camps, winter coats, braces for Aaron's teeth when she was 13. Daycare costs when my husband's schedule changed and I had to work doubles. I let the paper turn those years into clean facts. At the end of that section, I totaled the line. $200,000. I put a box around it and wrote before college beneath the box. I wanted the weight to sit where it belonged. Wedding folder. I slid out receipts for the banquet hall, catering invoices, a florist's thank you card, final payment slip from the band. I wrote $35,000, entire wedding cost. I drew a small flower next to it because that night had been beautiful. It mattered that it was beautiful. I refused to let cruelty erase beauty. Housing. Here I stopped, pulled a breath all the way in. At the top I wrote, houses 2 sublines. Starter condo gift at marriage, $50,000. Down payment for current house, $150,000. I remembered touring the house with them. The big windows, the lemon-scrubbed counters. It's too much, Aaron had whispered. Not if we do it right, I'd said. I believed in doing things right. I turned the page. When they fell behind, 8 mortgage payments from my pension, $16,000. Kids' orthodontics, $4,000. Car repairs, phone replacements, heating bills, small vacations when the marriage needed breathing room, $10,000. I made myself stop there. This wasn't a contest with myself. I recalculated the whole page, ran my pen under each sum, whispered the total aloud. My voice stayed steady. Total $463,000. I stared at that number, stroked the paper once with the back of my finger, gentle, as if it were a bandage on someone else's skin. Then I flipped the page and did the exercise a financial advisor once taught me. If that money had been invested in a simple fund with modest returns, I made a conservative estimate, less than what financial news promises. More honest. The number I wrote next was $620,000. I didn't circle it. I didn't need to. It was for me alone. I made tea, stood in the kitchen while the water heated. The gold cord from the birthday cake still sat on my counter where I'd left it last night. I tied it into a bow and put it in the drawer. Then I carried my mug back to the table and called my friend Evelyn at the church office. "Good morning," she said, bright as always. "You're up early?" "I'm doing some housework, on paper." She laughed. "Come help with pantry sorting today. We got a shipment." "Not today. I need to call my bank when it opens." A tiny pause. "Everything okay?" "I'm just drawing lines," I said. "Yellow paint on a curb so cars know not to block the hydrant." "Boundaries." She said it like she'd heard this sermon before. Don't be too hard on yourself, June. Kids say things. They push because it's safe with us. She didn't push. She gave a requirement. Evelyn's voice lowered. Do you want me to talk to her? Sometimes a third voice helps. No, thank you, but no. We love you, she said. Don't make any drastic moves alone. I won't make drastic moves. I'll make careful ones, with notes. After we hung up, I added one more line to my list. Third parties create smoke. I will not spend another decade in smoke. At noon, my stomach reminded me to eat. I toasted bread. Spread peanut butter the way I have since nursing school. Thin, even layer edge to edge. I ate standing at the counter. When I sat again, I wrote because at the top of a new page. Then I let the reasons come. Because I loved her, because I wanted to lift heavy things so she could carry lighter ones, because she was my only child after we lost the second, because I thought money could be a cushion, not a leash. Because I wanted to buy her time. Because I forgot to teach the difference between gift and claim, that last line hurt. Clean and exact. I let it sit there. At 1 o'clock, I pulled another box from the closet. Financial papers I keep for emergencies. I found the file for the joint savings account Erin and I had opened when she was pregnant with the twins. I'd been afraid of medical surprises. I walked into the bank with a list of questions and left with an account and a promise to myself. I wrote, $20,000. Joint account deposit for emergencies. I underlined the word emergencies. Then I underlined it again. My phone lit up. Erin, don't talk to people about last night. You make everything a public drama. Erin, we'll talk when you calm down. I typed, I'm calm. Deleted it. I typed, we'll talk when respect is present. Deleted that, too. I put the phone face down and wrote on a sticky note. Respect first. I stuck it to the edge of my notepad where I'd see it every time I reached for the next page. By late afternoon, the table looked like a small office. Folders open like shallow mouths. Paper clips in a line. Calculator out, though I prefer doing math by hand. I added a tiny index at the back, page numbers and categories in case I needed to show anyone. I numbered the page with the total and added in parentheses, verify with statements. Then I flipped to a fresh page and wrote a title I'd never used before. Policy. Under it, 4 short rules. 1. Do not give under pressure. 2. Do not fix what is not requested. 3. Do not lend without terms in writing. 4. Do not apologize for boundaries. I felt steadiness return, like locking a medication cart and checking the handle twice. As light shifted to late afternoon, I gathered the stacks back into their folders and slid them into the box. I left the notepad and pen out. I washed my cup and wiped the table clean. Then I sat again and read the page with the total one more time. Not to soak in pain, to accept the facts. $463,000 given $620,000 if invested. I didn't scold myself. I didn't dress the numbers in what-ifs. I let the lesson be quiet and current. At 5 o'clock, I moved the phone to the center of the table. I looked at yesterday's note. Call the bank in the morning. Morning was over, but the workday was still open. My name was on the joint account. I had been careful. I had been generous on purpose and sloppy by habit. It was time to be only careful. I took a long breath in, let it out slowly. I picked up the phone and tapped the number from the back of my debit card. A recorded voice listed options. I chose accounts. Cheerful hold music filled the room. When a human answered, I straightened my shoulders. Good afternoon, I said. My name is June Harper. I have a question about a joint account. I need to understand what can be separated and how long it takes. The banker's voice was professional and kind. For joint accounts, both parties have full access, she explained. If you want to separate the funds, we'll need to verify your identity in person. I'll come now, I said. The branch sat 3 blocks from my apartment, a square building of brick and blue glass. I'd been banking there for 20 years. I put the notepad in my purse and walked. 3 blocks felt manageable. My knees don't like stairs anymore, but walking on flat ground is still fine. A greeter asked if I needed help. Joint account changes, I said. She pointed me to a chair near the manager's desk. A man in a gray suit stepped out. Mid-40s, kind eyes. Ms. Harper? I'm Mr. Morales. Come on back. His office was neat. Succulents on the windowsill, a framed certificate, a bowl of peppermints. He waited while I settled my purse on my lap. How can I help today? I have a joint savings account with my daughter, I said. I opened it for emergencies. I want to close the account and move the funds to an account in my name only. He tapped at his keyboard. I see it here. Before we proceed, let me explain a few things. He looked up. Joint accounts are convenient for emergencies, but either owner can close at any time. Are you comfortable with how this might affect your relationship? I'm comfortable. We can remove her and leave the account open in your name, or we can close it entirely and open a new one. Which would you prefer? Close it. Open a new account. My name only. He nodded. All right. Let me confirm your ID. I handed him my driver's license. He compared it to his screen and typed. For transparency, your current joint balance is $20,000. Yes, that's the deposit I made for emergencies. Are there any automatic payments tied to this account? I paused. There might be. I've helped with bills when they needed it. I don't want to fund anything without my consent anymore. He folded his hands. I understand. Sometimes these changes trigger late payments if something auto-drafts tomorrow. If, for example, a mortgage payment tries to pull from this account, you could see an alert go out immediately. I understand, I said. I will manage what belongs to me. He gave me a small, measuring nod. Very well. We'll open a new savings account in your name, transfer the full balance, and close the joint account. He paused. If you prefer, we can leave the joint account at zero and block outgoing transfers until you decide. Close it, I said. He printed forms and turned them toward me. Initial here, here, and sign at the bottom. This confirms you acknowledge your co-owner will lose access. This one confirms you understand we cannot notify the co-owner on your behalf. I will notify her, I said. In writing. He watched me sign, then stood. I'll be right back. He walked to the glass wall and spoke to a teller. I sat still, breathed slowly. My hands didn't shake. A memory flashed, counting medications at shift change. The click of the locked cart. The relief of clean lines. Mr. Morales returned with a receipt and a new account number printed in bold. The transfer is complete, he said. Your new balance is $20,000. He placed a small envelope on the desk. Here are temporary checks and your online login instructions. I'll also give you my card. If your daughter calls the branch, we can't discuss your account, but we'll let her know the joint account was closed lawfully. Thank you. He cleared his throat. Ms. Harper, I'll say something I sometimes say in these situations. Money can be a stand-in for many things. If this change is meant to create a boundary, it often helps to name it clearly, preferably in writing. I will, I said. Outside, the air felt thinner. My phone buzzed in my purse. Then again. I didn't look. I wanted to cross the street first. Put distance between myself and what I'd just done. At home, I set the envelope on the table and took out my notepad. Under yesterday's list, I wrote, completed. Closed joint account. Transferred $20,000. New account opened. I drew a line under it. Then I wrote, next, review cosigner status on house. The phone buzzed harder. 3 messages in a row. I flipped it over. Aaron, did you just empty our account? Aaron, mortgage autopay is tomorrow. What are you doing? Aaron, answer me. I typed slowly, carefully. I restored emergency funds to my name. The joint account was for emergencies, not regular bills. We can discuss terms for any future help. The typing dots blinked, then stopped. Nothing came. A separate message arrived from Mark. Mark, hey, the account's at zero. The house payment is queued. This creates a problem. Can you transfer back today? We'll talk later. I looked at the words queued and problem. I felt no heat, just a clean click, like a latch. I called him. He picked up immediately. June, thank you. If you can just... Mark, I said. The emergency money was always mine. I've closed that access. If the mortgage uses that account, you'll need a new source. This is a bad day for this, June. Aaron's barely holding it together. The autopay will bounce and we'll get hit with fees. It's not a stunt, I said. It's a boundary. You're on the loan, he said, voice tight. If this payment fails, it hurts you too. I'm a co-signer, not a parent to your budget. If you need me to contribute to a payment, we can draft terms and sign them. He exhaled hard into the phone. Can you just put back enough for this month and we'll... No. Silence. Beginning today, I said, we treat money as money, not air. You're forcing a crisis. I'm acknowledging one. He muttered something I couldn't catch. Fine, I'll move things around. Thank you, I said. I ended the call. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. Erin. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted, Erin, you are cruel. You love your ledger more than me. If we lose the house, know that it's on you. I stared at that message. I set the phone face down. I walked to the sink and washed my hands, the way I do when a word clings to me and won't let go. The afternoon stretched. I made a list of utilities and auto drafts I might have covered in years past. I wrote small boxes next to each and left them empty until I could confirm. Then I wrote a new heading, legal under it, 3 questions. 1. Am I on the deed as co-owner or only on the loan? 2. If co-owner, what are my rights if payments lapse? 3. What is the fastest route to separate obligations and reclaim my share? I pulled an older folder from the box, closing documents from when they bought the house. Inside, a photocopy of the deed. 3 names under grantees. June Marie Harper, Erin Elizabeth Harper, Mark David Chen. I took a photograph of it and attached it to an email. The recipient was a local attorney whose card I'd kept after he spoke at church about estate planning. His name was Alan Avery. I wrote, Mr. Avery, I am a co-owner and co-signer on my daughter's home. I need to understand my rights and options. Please advise on next steps. I hit send. The phone lit again. Evelyn, I answered. People talk, she said gently. Mark just asked the group chat if anyone could float him a short-term loan. He mentioned an account situation. Do you need me to say anything? No. Please don't. I'm handling my end. You know they'll spin this, she said. Be ready for looks on Sunday. I'm not attending Sunday, I said. I need quiet. She sighed. You're not alone, June. I know. I'm choosing to be unaccompanied. At 3 o'clock, the attorney called. Ms. Harper, this is Alan Avery. I got your email with the deed image. Do you have a few minutes? Yes. I looked at the deed. You are indeed a co-owner. You're also on the mortgage as a co-borrower. That gives you both obligations and leverage. May I ask why you're asking now? I didn't hesitate. My daughter told me yesterday that her birthday wish is for me to die. Today I closed a joint account I'd opened for emergencies. Their mortgage autopay appears to have relied on it. Professional silence. Understood. I'm sorry for that experience. He paused. Legally, here's where you stand. As a co-owner, you have the right to seek partition if co-ownership becomes untenable. That can force a sale or a buyout. As a co-borrower, you're liable if payments lapse, but you also have the right to cure a default and then seek contribution from the other owners. I paid the down payment, I said, and multiple mortgage payments. I kept receipts. Good. Paper wins. We can build a clean record. He paused. 2 tracks are possible. Track 1, we open negotiation for a buyout or sale while payments continue. Track 2, if they miss payments, we move faster. Given your situation, I recommend a letter today. Assert your ownership and request immediate separation of finances. Propose either a buyout by a certain date or listing the property. They'll say I'm punishing them. Make the letter boring, he said. Dates, amounts, options. No adjectives. Let me write it. Fees? I asked. I'll keep it contained. We start with the letter. If they respond in good faith, we negotiate. If not, we file. All right, write the letter. Email me your records of contributions. And Ms. Harper, do not engage in long text arguments. Short responses or none at all. Your kindness is not evidence. Your documents are. I can do that. I put the phone down and opened my folder again. I slid the deed copy into a clear sleeve and labeled it with blue tape. Title, June Harper, Erin Harper, Mark Chen. Then I opened my notepad and wrote, co-owner, co-borrower, co-decider. At 4 o'clock, the first bank alert hit my phone. Autopay failed. Mortgage. A second alert. Low balance. Account closed. I watched the messages land without moving. Then a third. Not from the bank. Erin. You humiliated me. The payment failed. People know. Fix this now. I typed, I'm available to discuss in writing with terms. I will not fund on demand. She replied in seconds. Erin, you are dead to me. I set the phone down. I lifted my pen. I wrote that sentence on a blank page. Writing it down kept it from roaming the rooms of my mind. Then I folded the page once and tucked it under the notepad, out of sight. At 5, I walked to the mailbox. On the way, my neighbor with the tidy lawn looked up from his hedge clippers. "Everything all right, June?" "Everything is accurate," I said. He frowned, unsure what to do with that answer. I kept walking. When I returned, I laid out every document the lawyer would want. Proof of $150,000 down payment, the 8 months I paid mortgage, $16,000, notes on orthodontics, $4,000, the ledger of extras that became normal. I photographed each set and emailed them with the subject line: Harper Contributions, Documentation. A reply pinged within minutes. Received. Strong file. I'll draft tonight and send courier in the morning. I exhaled. I felt the quiet thrill that comes after choosing a path and taking the first 3 steps without wobbling. At 6, a final text from Mark. "Mark, I covered this month. Next month is unclear. Please reconsider. You can't win if we go to war." I answered once. "I'm not at war. I'm enforcing terms that never existed. You're welcome to propose some." He sent back a single word. "Mark, cold." I didn't reply. I made dinner. Eggs, spinach toast. Ate at the table with my papers pushed aside. Washed the pan. Left it to dry. Then I sat and reread my 4 rules under policy. I added a 5th. 5. Do not discuss money in doorways. I underlined it. Dusk thinned the room. I turned on the lamp and wrote a note to myself. Not a pep talk, not a scold. Just truth. You can be fair and firm. I set the pen down. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Ms. Harper, it's Alan again. I've drafted the letter. We'll courier it tomorrow. One more thing. Given the deed, if they refuse cooperation and payments wobble, we can petition to take possession pending partition. It's rare but possible when one owner can maintain the property and others cannot." I felt the air shift. "You're saying I can take the house?" "I'm saying," he replied, precise and calm, "that in your case you can reclaim the house." The next morning I drove to my insurance agent's office. The office smelled like dry paper and lemon furniture polish. I slid my ID across the desk. "I want to change the beneficiary on my life insurance policy," I said. "The $100,000 one," the agent typed, polite and brisk. "Current beneficiary is your daughter, Erin Harper. New designation?" "Hearts and Hands Foundation," I said, "primary beneficiary. If needed, remainder to a simple trust. I'll be trustee while living, then a professional trustee after." She nodded. "Reason for the change?" "I'm aligning gifts with values." "Fair enough." Forms printed, boxes weighted. I read every line. I initialed where arrows pointed, signed where lines asked. The agent stamped the pages with a blue seal that popped like a small gavel. "Effective on receipt," she said. "You'll get confirmation tonight." I walked out lighter. Not happy, not triumphant, just steady. At home, a courier envelope leaned against my door. The lawyer's letter. Inside, 3 copies. One for Aaron and Mark, one for me, one for the file. I read it twice. No adjectives, just dates, amounts, options. You may buy out June Harper's interest by date or list the property for sale. If neither occurs, partition proceedings will follow. Remedies in plain type. My phone buzzed before I finished the second paragraph. "Mark." I let it ring out, then listened to his voicemail. "June, it's me. Aaron forwarded a draft of some letter. This is a lot. Let's slow down. Don't send that. Give me 2 months. I can refinance, get your name off the loan, keep you on the deed as security. We'll revisit numbers later. We don't need lawyers. We need air. Reasonable, always later." I called back. He answered fast. "Thank you," he said, like I'd already agreed. 2 months is another tool you can use to not decide, I said. The letter goes today. "You'll blow up our lives, the twins. I'm not asking you to move tomorrow. I'm asking you to choose. Buy me out by the date in the letter or list the house. Those are stable choices." A long exhale. You don't have to be this hard. I have to be this clear. We hung up without goodbye. I slid my copy of the letter into a new sleeve, labeled it, and filed it behind title. Lines on paper, lines in sand. I opened the windows, let the afternoon in. The apartment breathed. I made tea and sat at the table with my notepad angled toward the light. At the top of a clean page, I wrote, Legacy, I drew 2 columns. Things I can control and things I cannot under can. Beneficiaries will travel time tone under cannot. Other people's choices. I called the attorney back. Alan, one more thing. I need an estate plan that matches what I actually believe. I'll refer you to a colleague who does wills and trusts, he said. You're thinking revocable trust for most assets, charity as residuary, small specific gifts if you choose? Yes. No strings, no traps, clean. Good. I'll have her office call you. And Ms. Harper? He paused. Good boundaries often outlive the person who sets them. That's the point. An hour later, I sat across from a compact woman with a tidy desk and a sharp pen. Tell me what matters, she said. Dignity, I said. Clarity. Minimal drama. We built it fast and fine. Living trust pour-over will health proxy. Letter of wishes to the charity. Small scholarships for kids aging out of foster care. Seed fund for the grandchildren. Modest, managed by someone else. If you change your mind about family gifts, she said, we can adjust. I've been changing my mind for decades, I said. This is me deciding. We finished signatures just after 3. She notarized, slid the stack into a blue folder, and handed it to me like a diploma. On the bus home, 2 teenagers argued softly about music. I watched them, felt the old ache of wanting to smooth every path for a child. I let the ache be a human thing, not a command. At my stop, I stepped down and saw Evelyn waiting by the corner with a canvas tote. I wasn't sure I'd catch you, she said. But here you are? Here I am? I heard words like letter and lawyer floating through the grapevine. You don't have to explain a thing. I brought you oranges. I took the bag. Thank you. You could come with the seniors group next month, she said, brightening. We're doing 10 days in Switzerland. Alpine lakes, walking paths, clean air. It's gentle. Gentle sounds good. We go through a good agency. They handle everything. If you want to add a few days alone, they can arrange a consultation with a licensed retirement advisor. People say he's kind and practical. What's his name? She pulled a flyer from the tote. Mr. Hans Meyer, Zurich-based. I smiled. Think about it, she said. Sometimes distance helps when people are tugging on your sleeve. Distance is a new muscle for me. Good. Use it before you lose it. She patted my arm and left. Back upstairs, I set the oranges in a bowl. I folded the flyer and slid it under a magnet on the fridge. The picture showed a lake like glass, a path curving out of frame. I stood there longer than I meant to. My phone pinged. Aaron, got your letter. This is revenge dressed as paperwork. You want to humiliate us. You want people to see us fail. I typed, I want clear agreements. Please have counsel review the options. She replied instantly. Aaron, we don't need counsel. We need a mother. I set the phone down. I peeled an orange. Slow, careful. I ate it standing at the counter. A new message. Unknown number. Ms. Harper, this is Silver Paths Travel. Evelyn said you might be interested in our Alpine Lakes walk. We have a small group leaving in 2 weeks. Single rooms available. I stared at the screen. 2 weeks. I looked at the blue folder of fresh documents. I looked at the lawyer's letter ready to go out. I looked at the flyer with the lake. I thought about my policy. Do not give under pressure. Do not fix without request. Do not apologize for boundaries, I called the travel coordinator. Tell me the basics, I said. She ran through them. Dates, walking distances, meals included, emergency contact protocol. Optional add-on, she finished. A brief financial wellness consultation with a licensed advisor. Useful for retirees rebalancing. I could hear my own breath in the small spaces between her sentences. I'll take the add-on, I said, and the single room. Wonderful. We can hold a spot for 48 hours. No, I said. Let's book it. I read her my passport number from the drawer where I keep it under rubber bands. I confirmed the dates, the hotel. I wrote the itinerary in my notepad with the same neat hand I used to label IV bags. When she asked how I'd like confirmation, I said email. When we ended, I called the courier number from the lawyer's email. Pickups today? I asked. On our way. Leave it at the desk. Driver will knock. I sealed the envelope. I wrote the names on the front in my careful script. I set it by the door. I stood there a long minute. Let my body feel what my mind already knew. This wasn't spite. This was scope. Mark called again. I answered. Please, he said. No preamble. Don't send it. I can make numbers work if you give me time. You can make numbers work now. You can choose one of the options. That's what time is for. You're leaving, he said. Evelyn mentioned a trip. You're going to vanish and drop bombs from a postcard. I'm going to walk. I'm going to breathe air that isn't negotiated. He went quiet, then softer. I know you cared for us. I know you did. I still do, I said. That's why I'm putting care in writing. It keeps everyone honest. You think we'll pick the worst option just to spite you? I think you'll pick whatever lets you delay consequences. The letter removes delay as a tactic. That's cruel. It's clear. The courier knocked. I handed him the envelope. He slipped it into a pouch and scanned it. Have a good evening, ma'am. You too. When the door clicked shut, my phone buzzed. The insurance agent. Beneficiary change processed. Effective immediately. Confirmation attached. I tapped the file. I saw my name. The policy number. The new designation. The line of text looked like a rail switching point. A small shift. A very different track. I turned off the lamp and stood by the window while night settled. Somewhere downstairs, a dog barked once and stopped. I pressed my palm against the glass. Felt the day cooling. The inbox chimed. A new subject line slid into view. Your flight is booked. I packed like a nurse preparing a crash cart. Essentials only. Everything in its place. Copies of the trust and the lawyer's letter went into a flat document pouch. Passport. One good sweater. Walking shoes. A second pair in case the first gave me blisters. My pill organizer with 2 weeks of vitamins. I left the blue folder in my desk. Carried only what I needed to move through a day without asking favors. At the airport, the loudest thing in the terminal was my phone. It pulsed with messages while I waited at the gate. I turned the screen face down and opened a small notebook I'd bought for the trip. On the first page, I wrote 3 rules in block letters. 1. No money talk by text. 2. No decisions when ambushed. 3. Answers only to questions asked in good faith. A child cried 2 rows over. A man argued with a gate agent about seat assignments. My name came over the speaker for boarding. I stood and walked to the line. Aaron called as I reached the jet bridge. I let it go to voicemail. Mark's message arrived before the tone finished. Mark, we'll fix this when you're back. Don't make threats from vacation. I put the phone on airplane mode. Felt my shoulders drop an inch. A woman my age slid into the seat beside me. Gray hair cut short. Sensible shoes. Traveling alone? She asked. Yes. Me too, she smiled. Group walks keep me honest about pace. I'm Ruth. June, I said. She pulled a paperback from her bag and patted the cover. I bring books to look busy. Mostly I look out the window. We can do both, I said. We did. The plane slid forward. The runway rushed and released. Clouds held us for a while, then let go. When we landed in Zurich, the air smelled like water and sun on stone. I followed small signs to baggage claim, then to the shuttle. The hotel sat near the edge of the lake. A square building with windows like bright eyes. Check-in took minutes. My room was clean and quiet. A narrow balcony. A view of the path that curved along the shore. I unpacked my small case and hung one dress to let the wrinkles fall. Washed my face. Changed shoes. Went down to the lobby for orientation. A man with a clipboard and a navy sweater stood by a cardboard sign. Silver Paths, he said, tapping it. Welcome, I'm Klaus. He moved through the small group, learning names, asking about knees and feet. Tomorrow, gentle walk along the lake, he said. We stop for coffee halfway. Afternoon is free. If you need anything, my number's on the sheet. He placed a folded schedule in my hand and tipped his head. Single room? Yes. Good. He said it with a small approving nod that felt like a blessing. I stepped outside afterward and walked the path on my own. The lake was flat under a pale sky. Cyclists clicked past in a slow stream. A boy tossed a stick for a dog who ignored it in favor of rocks. I did not think about money for 3 full minutes. My mind noticed the lack the way a body notices when pain stops. It didn't feel like joy. It felt like oxygen. On a quiet street behind the hotel, a shop window caught my eye. Silk scarves in careful colors. I went in. May I see that one? I asked, pointing. The blue-green. The shopkeeper unfolded a scarf that held the exact color of the lake beside us. For you or a gift? For me? Good, she said. Kind eyes deserve soft things. I paid 100 francs and let her wrap it in tissue. Back at the hotel, I tied the scarf loosely around my neck and checked email on the lobby computer. The courier had confirmed delivery. The attorney had forwarded a copy of the letter with timestamps and a simple line, "Served." The insurance agent had sent a second confirmation for the beneficiary change. The travel coordinator had added a final note. Tomorrow at 4 p.m., Mr. Hans Meyer can meet in the hotel lounge for your financial wellness consultation. I wrote his name and the time on my paper schedule. Then I took the small notebook to the balcony. The street below was a slow river of shoes and wheels. I wrote, "Today I did not fix a single thing for someone else. No one died. The world continued." My phone vibrated against the table. Airplane mode off. Messages came all at once, stacked like plates. Aaron, you left. You don't even care what you did. Mark, the letter is going to poison everything. Talk to me. Aaron, people know. You have no shame. I scrolled once, stopped. I answered one line to both. Please direct all legal questions to counsel. I'm not discussing this by text. Then I put the phone on silent and slid it into the drawer of the bedside table. At dinner, I ate alone at a small table near the window. The server asked if I wanted wine. No, thank you. Water is enough. It was. The world outside the glass did not ask anything of me. Ruth waved from across the room and came over with her plate. May I? Please. She set down her fork and looked at me with frank curiosity. People always tell strangers the truth. It feels safer. Want to try? I'm practicing quiet, I said. That might be a kind of truth. She grinned. Fair. I'll go first. I've been a rescuer since I could open a door. I'm spending a week learning to let other people turn their own handles. That's a good week, I said. What about you? I'm learning to stop funding emergencies I didn't create. I'm learning that no is a complete sentence. She nodded, approving. Write that down so you don't forget. I already did. I tapped the pocket where my notebook lived. After dinner, we walked the path with the others until the light thinned. Someone pointed at a boat. Someone asked about local bread. Bits of humanity that didn't require sorting or fixing drifted around us. I slept early with the window cracked just enough to pull in cool air. In the morning, the group kept a gentle pace along the lake. Klaus counted heads at street crossings like a kindergarten teacher, the kind who genuinely cares. The coffee stop was an old cafe where cups were heavy and sugar came in small brown packets. Ruth told me about her grandson's science project with soft pride that surprised her. I told her about nursing school and the trick of eating on a 12-minute break. We were careful and ordinary. Back at the hotel, I had the afternoon to myself before meeting Mr. Meyer. I sat on the balcony with a sandwich and watched people pass below with their own lists in their heads. At 2, I checked email. Alan had sent a short update. They acknowledged receipt. No response yet. Breathe. Enjoy your walk. At 3, I opened the notebook and wrote a letter I would never send. Dear Aaron, I love you without condition. I will help you with conditions. That difference is the thin bridge between love and harm. I see now that I taught you the first sentence and kept the second to myself. I am correcting the record. I closed the notebook when the words started to sting. I washed my face, put on the lake-colored scarf. At 4, I went down to the lounge. Mr. Hans Meyer stood when I approached. Compact, polite, careful hands. Ms. Harper, he said, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your time. He listened as I summarized. I gave him the numbers without embroidery. The $50,000 at marriage. The $150,000 down payment. The months totaling $16,000. The extras. The tallies. The letter. The trust. I did not apologize for any of it. I let the sums be the sums. He nodded as if counting steps on a staircase. You have done difficult, disciplined work for other people, he said. Now we talk about doing it for yourself. I want simple, I said. I want safety. I want to sleep. Then we build around those words. He drew a small grid on a notepad. Cash for 6 months. A conservative fund for near-term needs. A slightly more assertive set for years 3 to 10. No extremes. No heroics. No products you don't understand. Good. I don't want to be sold. I don't sell, he said. I explain. We talked through what near term meant at 72. We talked about travel and food and the simple fact that I liked to give quietly and would keep doing it. He asked about risk with gentle persistence. "Where is your flinch?" he asked. "Tell me where your hand pulls back." "In surprises," I said. "In people using urgency as a tool." He nodded once. "Then our plan removes urgency as a lever. We automate what should be automated and remove access where access leads to harm." "Like I did at the bank?" "Exactly." He asked for no account numbers, only structure. He wrote percentages, not brands. "If you choose to work with someone at home," he said, "ask for this map, not their favorite vehicles. The map matters more than the car." My phone buzzed on the table. I ignored it. He continued, "You also have an unusual asset. If you recover proceeds from the house and add them to a disciplined plan, you can change your next decade." "I don't want to live like a guard dog." "You will live like a gardener," he said. "Seed, water, rest. That's all." "And the numbers?" He looked at my totals, then at me. "With a conservative allocation and your current baseline, I would expect you to protect your principal and draw modest income without eating your future. If you add the reclaimed assets and keep spending steady, there is a real path where your net position could double in 5 years." I went very still. "Not by magic," he added. "By discipline, by removing leaks, by refusing emergencies that are not yours, by letting time do its quiet work." The phone on the table lit again. I didn't look down. "Say it again," I said. He did, word for word, slow and steady. When he finished, he lifted his eyes. "It requires calm. It requires boredom. Most people find boredom hard." "I was a nurse for 40 years, I said. "Boredom is not hard. Boredom feels like safety." He smiled with his eyes. "Then we are aligned." Ruth waved as she passed the lounge with a guidebook. I lifted a hand in return. "Mr." Meyer slid the notepad toward me so I could photograph the grid and percentages. "No products," he repeated. "Only structure." I took the picture and slid the phone back face down. "Do you have any questions for me?" he asked. "Only one. How do I keep a plan safe from people who want to spend my peace?" He folded his hands, thought for a moment, then answered in the same calm tone he'd used for every number. "You write your rules. You follow them. And when someone treats your no like an opening bid, you end the conversation, not the boundary." He paused. "It takes practice." "I have a week," I said. "I'll practice." We stood. He offered his card with a small bow. "If you want a second pair of eyes on the plan when you return home, send me the outline. I will send you back questions, not products." "Thank you." I stepped out onto the path again. The lake held the late light. My phone hummed in my pocket and stopped. I left it there. I walked until the hotel was a small square behind me, and the scarf lifted a little with each breath. On the balcony that evening, as the air cooled, I opened the notebook to a clean page. I wrote one line across the top, neat and centered. "There is a path where my net position could double in 5 years. The messages started before breakfast. Aaron, you are destroying us. Aaron, if you cared, you would fix this today." Then a longer one I didn't read. I put the phone face down and laced my shoes. Klaus led us uphill to a lookout above the lake. Ruth walked beside me, counting steps under her breath. Halfway up, my phone buzzed steady in my pocket. I let it. The view at the top was clean. Water, roofs, a church spire. I breathed until my ribs eased. Back at the hotel, a voicemail waited from Alan. "They've engaged someone with opinions. Expect dramatic texts. Do not reply at length. Also, your lender sent a late notice. If next month lapses, they'll issue a default letter. That's a formal start. We'll be ready. Document everything. Do not pay without terms." I texted him. Received. Then I called the front desk and asked about a quiet table for dinner. "Of course, Ms. Harper, by the window." At 4, I sat in the lounge with tea and read the trip schedule again. People came and went with towels and guidebooks. The world did not stop to ask my opinion on its needs. It was a mercy. Aaron called. I picked up. "We can speak for 5 minutes," I said. "Only if you avoid insults." She inhaled like a swimmer, then plunged. "You embarrassed me. Everyone knows. The mortgage company called my job. Do you enjoy this?" "No, I am protecting my name and my credit. You can do the same by choosing an option in the letter." "You want us on the street?" "I want adults to act like adults. You and Mark can buy me out, or we can list the house. Those are choices. You're a monster. She hung up. I looked at the screen. 47 missed calls lit the log. 47. I put the phone back in the drawer and wrote the number in my notebook. Writing keeps panic from growing teeth. At dinner, I ordered salmon with a tiny spoon of caviar. The server repeated the price and waited. Yes, I said. That one. When the plate arrived, it was precise and kind. I ate slowly. I let the good thing be a good thing. When the bill came, my eye passed over the total and landed on the line that mattered. 80 francs. I signed and sat a moment longer with the lake in the window. Ruth slid into the chair across from me. You look like a person who just did something brave and small. I bought myself dinner. I didn't apologize to the air. She clinked her water glass against mine. To boring bravery. On the way to the elevator, a message pinged from Evelyn. Evelyn, Mark says you're refusing to help to teach a lesson. Is that true? I typed, erased, typed again. No, I'm requiring agreements for help. That's different. She sent a heart, then Evelyn. Brace for whispers on Sunday. I typed, I won't be there, and turned off the phone. Morning brought clear air and a full inbox. The lender's subject line sat like a stamp. Notice of late payment below it, a message from Mark. Mark, if you keep pushing, the bank will start proceedings. No one wins. Stop now. Then another from someone I knew only slightly. We were all young once. Don't punish. Forgive. I closed the laptop and went downstairs. The group took a ferry to a small village across the lake. We walked a loop on crushed stone trail. Ruth told a story about her brother getting lost at a county fair. He stood by a pole and waited, she said. He knew their dad would walk the aisles until he found him. I thought about poles. I thought about how much of my mothering had been running, not waiting. When we returned, Alan called. Quick update. Their reply came in. Lots of heat, little substance. They asked for time and accused you of malice. I answered with dates and amounts. Thank you. Also be aware, if a default letter issues, the clock starts. 30 days to cure. Then the lender can accelerate. It's a process, not a cliff. Don't let anyone tell you a sheriff is at the door tomorrow. I don't want to be scared into sloppy. Good. One more note. If you choose to cure a default to protect your credit, do it through me and with a written demand for contribution. We keep leverage. We hung up. I wrote in the margin of my notebook. Process, not cliff. Underlined it twice. The next day I answered one call from Mark. Please, he said. Let me broker peace. Peace is a plan, I said. Broker that. You used to be kind. I still am. Kindness now looks like clarity. He swore softly. You love your rules more than your family. I love my life. I recommend you love yours. It includes paying your bills. We ended there. I sat on the balcony until shade reached my feet. A cyclist dinged a bell below. Someone laughed. These sounds did not ask anything of me. I let them wash through. By midweek, whispers reached across the ocean. A message from a choir friend. I'm praying for Aaron. This is so hard. Another from a neighbor. Heard you pulled the money. Seems extreme. I did not answer either. Ruth, seeing my face, slid a wrapped cookie across the table. For courage, she said. Sugar helps. Klaus announced a free afternoon. I walked alone along a canal and sat on a bench where old men argued about boats in German. I took out my notebook and wrote my rules under policy, then read them aloud. Soft. 1. Do not give under pressure. 2. Do not fix what is not requested. 3. Do not lend without terms in writing. 4. Do not apologize for boundaries. 5. Do not discuss money in doorways. I added a 6th. 6. Do not explain your no to anyone who mocks it. At 4, Mr. Meyer saw me in the lobby and lifted a hand. One question, I said. Of course. If ugliness rises at home, do I hold cash or act? Harm is loud, he said. Wisdom is quiet. Keep your 6 months in cash. Keep your feet under you. Act only with documents. That evening, the restaurant filled with people speaking languages I didn't know. I liked being unable to follow. It gave my thoughts fewer hooks to snag on. I ordered soup and bread and watched the lake darken. Back in the room, my phone lit with a voicemail from an unfamiliar number. A man's voice. Formal. This is Robert Lang from the Mortgage Servicers Legal Department. We've noted changes in payment patterns. Please return our call. I forwarded the message to Alan. His reply was crisp. Don't call, I'll handle. Sleep. I slept. The morning brought a folder under my door from the front desk, a sticky note in the clerk's careful hand. For Ms. Harper inside, a printout from my email. Alan's subject line, notice of default issued. I sat on the bed and read the body twice. The lender had sent a formal letter to all borrowers. 30 days to cure. Acceleration language. The word foreclosure used not as a threat, but as a path if nothing changed. I set the paper down, waited for fear. It didn't come as a wave. It arrived like a guest with hat in hand. Polite and certain. I made tea, opened the notebook, wrote a sentence I could live inside. A process has started. I will answer it with a process. Aaron's message came 15 minutes later. Aaron, you did this. Are you happy? Aaron, fix it. Aaron, if we lose the house, it's your fault. The old hook tugged. I let it tug. I didn't bite. I went downstairs. The lobby smelled like coffee and lemon polish. Klaus looked up. You okay? I am accurate, I said. He smiled. Precise is a good way to be. On the ferry, Ruth linked her arm through mine. Tell me something true that isn't about them. The lake is green, I said. Good start. At lunch, I answered one text to Alan. If I choose to cure, I want contribution in writing. He replied, yes, draft ready, but do not move first. They must ask and they must sign. If they don't, we shift to partition. In the afternoon, Evelyn called. I answered. People are loud, she said. They'll quiet when this stops being gossip. I'm not feeding them. Good. Also, selfishly, I miss you. When you're back, come help with pantry sorting. Boxes don't judge. Boxes are my favorite, I said. She laughed. I know. Evening brought a message from Mark that tried a different key. Mark, I'm sorry for words said in heat. Let me meet your lawyer. Let's fix this. I forwarded it to Alan. He wrote back. I'll invite him to call. No more triangles. I ate in the cafe downstairs. A couple argued at the next table in soft bursts. The bill, the taxi, the route home. I watched the waiter deliver their food anyway. People keep eating even when the house is on fire. Nurses learn that early. Back in the room, I found a new email from the lender. Intent to accelerate if not cured. The steps were bullets. The tone was steady. I appreciated the steadiness. I sent it to Alan. He called. This is the line. We either see a signed agreement with a buyout path or listing date very soon, or we let the lender walk their process and we prepare ours. If they ask you to cure, we require a written promise to reimburse and to enter a sale or buyout immediately if they cannot maintain payments. If they won't sign, we don't cure. Your credit is valuable, but so is leverage. Don't trade it cheap. Understood. A long pause. Are you alone? He asked it not prying, just human. I am accompanied, I said, by calm people in a green lake. He laughed softly. Good. I'll be ready for whatever comes tomorrow. I set the phone down and stood at the window. The lake had turned to dark metal. The path below flickered with cyclists' lights. I flew home with the scarf folded in my bag and the rules copied on a card in my wallet. The apartment smelled exactly like itself. Faint lavender from the sachets I keep in closets. A hint of coffee from this morning's cup left in another lifetime. I watered the plant on the windowsill, opened the windows, set the blue folder on the table like a guest I trusted. Alan called the next morning. Auction is posted, he said. 3 weeks. They can cure in full. If they don't, the sale goes forward. If they ask you to advance funds, we require signatures, contribution agreement plus a listing or buyout date. Understood. No money without terms. They haven't engaged counsel, he added. Lots of heat, no paper. I made tea and wrote at the top of my notebook. 3 weeks under it. Breathe document, don't bite hooks. Neighbors began to orbit. On the sidewalk, a woman I recognized from church slowed beside me. We're praying, she said. Hard times. Thank you. I kept walking. I would not narrate my life at the curb. Aaron texted twice a day. Aaron, you could stop this. Aaron, you don't care about your grandchildren. I answered once. Please direct legal matters to counsel. And stopped after that. Mark tried to be reasonable. Mark, I can cover part now and the rest after a refinance. Trust me. I sent his message to Alan. Alan replied no. Part now means part never. 2 days before the auction, there was a knock at my door. Evelyn stood on the landing with a grocery bag. "Oranges," she said. "And I want to say something, then I'll shut up." "Go ahead." "You're not doing this to them. You're doing this for you. Both can be true. That's all." "Thank you." She left the bag and went down the stairs. The auction day came quiet. I didn't go. I walked in the park and counted benches like stations on a pilgrimage. At noon, Alan called. "Sold. High enough to clear the loan, costs, and leave a surplus. We filed our equitable contribution claims weeks ago. The trustee will hold proceeds. I'll push our ledger to the front." I sat on a bench and watched a dog gallop after nothing. Do I have to see them today? No. Possession is a process. A notice goes out. A date is set. A lock changes. Sheriff present. Strong chance they move before that to avoid spectacle. He was right. A moving truck appeared 3 mornings later. I saw it only because I'd driven past on my way to the bank. I pulled to the curb across the street and put the car in park. I told myself I had no business here. I watched anyway. Boxes came down the front steps. A toddler cried. The twins kicked at a patch of dirt, arguing about who had to carry the light things. Mark moved fast. Eyes down, shoulders set. Erin stood in the yard with her phone pressed to her ear like a shield. The hydrangeas I'd planted that first spring were a soft blue cloud behind her. I felt the strict ache of wanting to say, water them, cut them back after first frost, feed them once a year. I kept my mouth closed. A neighbor with a neat beard leaned on the gate. "She's here," he said, low but not low enough. Erin's head lifted. Her eyes found my car. She walked to the curb, slow, like a person approaching a dog they didn't trust. "Are you enjoying this?" she asked. "No, I'm here by accident." "There are no accidents with you, only plans." "I wrote plans because no one else would. Now you write yours." "You could have saved us with one transfer." "One is never one," I said. "It's a rope, and it keeps being thrown." She made a small sound. Laugh or sob, I couldn't tell. "I have a job," she said suddenly. "I start next week, office manager at a dental clinic. It's not what I wanted, but it's a start. I'm glad. Work helps." Mark took a lower position, fewer hours, benefits. "That's a decision. Decisions are good." She stared at me as if a word might materialize on my forehead to make sense of me. "You didn't have to do this. I waited for years. I am done waiting." She stepped back. "You won't come see the twins. Not today. I'm keeping no contact until papers settle. It's kinder than a fight." She made the small sound again and turned away. At the gate, the bearded neighbor lifted a palm toward me. "You could have handled this private." "I did," I said. "For a long time." He shook his head like a judge at a fair. I looked past him at the house. The lemon-scrubbed counters would be bare now. The picture windows would show a room that looked oddly larger without the life we'd stuffed into it. I put the car in gear and drove away. At home, I washed my hands. It's what I do after hard things. Then I took out the notepad and wrote a single line. "They are moving. I am not." That evening, Alan called. "Possession date is set. They vacated, so no locks or sheriff today. The trustee has acknowledged our claim packet. I want expectations aligned. These disbursements can be slow. But we documented well. Your down payment is the anchor. Mortgage contributions and carrying costs help the argument. I understand slow. I worked nights for 20 years. Slowness can be steady." He chuckled. "That's a line I may borrow." Days turned into quiet rhythm. I walked. I cooked simple food. I stacked the blue folder with a thin new sleeve labeled Trustee, Sale Proceeds. The gossip oxygen thinned without a house to feed it. A woman at the pharmacy asked how I was. "Precise," I said. She laughed because she didn't understand but liked the sound. One afternoon I drove past the old house. Fresh paint going up on the trim. A new car in the drive. A dog's head in the window. The hydrangeas were watered. I felt relief like a valve opening. Homes deserve care. It didn't have to be me. Erin's messages shifted. "Erin, we found a rental near the twins' school." "Erin, I got my schedule, 4 days a week." "Erin, looking at a used car. The old one is coughing." I wrote nothing back. I put a check mark beside each sentence in my notebook under the heading, "Adults making adult decisions." Mark's messages came too. "Mark, Job title changed to assistant manager. Smaller pay, better hours. Another check. I went to pantry sorting with Evelyn on a Thursday. We lifted boxes, sorted cans, tied up bags of rice with twine. "How's your heart?" she asked in a low voice between stacks. "Beating." "Even?" "Even is a blessing." When I got home, I found an envelope under my door with the trustee's return address. My stomach did not drop. It didn't rise either. It held. I opened it at the table with a butter knife, the way my mother used to open letters from the bank. Inside was a single page acknowledging our claim. Down payment contributions, subject to verification and pro rata distribution following costs. I set it under blue tape in the new sleeve. Took photos, sent them to Alan. He replied minutes later. "Good sign. I'll press." A week later, a courier knocked. He held a thick envelope and a tablet for signature. I signed. He handed me the package. My hand stayed steady. The letter inside was short. The trustee had reviewed the escrow, the sale proceeds, the claims. After satisfying the lender, fees, taxes, and costs, they recognized my contribution claim for the down payment and a share of carrying costs. Disbursement authorized. The line read, followed by a number that sat on the page like a quiet stone. $185,000, Alan called before I finished reading. "June." I could hear the smile he didn't try to hide. "It cleared. Your recovery on principal and interest together comes to $185,000. Funds wire to the trust account today, then to you per your instruction." I didn't speak. He let the silence sit. "You built this with paper and patience. You kept heat out. That's why we got here." I exhaled. "Say the number again." He did, then added, "This doesn't include the studio situation you mentioned wanting to revisit. One thing at a time. For now, let yourself breathe." I set the phone down, pressed my palm flat on the table. In my mind, I saw a series of squares, pages, sleeves, boxes, clicked into place like tiles. One square glowed. It held a single line, neat and centered, ready for the next part to begin. The wire cleared at 9:12 a.m. Alan's message was one line. "Funds received. Forwarding today." I opened my banking page and saw the number like a clean pane of glass. $185,000. My breath went out in a straight line. At noon, a second deposit landed. Escrow reconciliation, an overage I hadn't counted on. Interest I hadn't expected. $5,000. I wrote it in my notebook and underlined it once. Small, precise mercies count. I made tea and took the blue folder from the drawer. One sleeve at a time, I moved documents from open to done. The table felt lighter. Alan called. 2 things. First, congratulations. You did this. Second, you mentioned a small studio you still own across town. If you want true simplicity, consider listing. Tight market, cash buyers. You could convert an idle asset into your plan buckets. I'm ready. I don't want to be a landlord by accident. Good. I'll introduce a broker who closes without drama. The broker lived up to billing. Photos on Tuesday, offers by Friday, inspection on Monday, signing on Wednesday. I cleaned the place myself, opened windows, wiped counters, folded the old curtains into a box for donation. I thanked the rooms. I closed the door. 3 weeks later, a wire hit my account. The memo line read, "Net proceeds after fees." The number was neat and final, $95,000. I sat at the oak table and added the 3 new lines together in pencil. I didn't rush the math. $185,000, house recovery. $5,000, escrow overage. $95,000, studio sale. I wrote the sum that fit both the page and my chest. $285,000. I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. I stood up and washed my hands. Then I called Mr. Meyer at the hour we'd set for follow-through. "We'll place 6 months in cash," he said, steady as ever. "We'll seed the conservative bucket and the modest growth bucket with the rest. No heroics, no leaks. You'll see monthly transfers to your checking for spending. You will ignore headlines. I can do that. And you will keep your rules near the phone. They're taped to the wall, next to the calendar. When the allocation confirmation arrived, percentages, not products, I slid a copy behind blue tape in a new sleeve labeled MAP. I wrote a single sentence beneath it in my notepad. I choose boredom over fire. A week later, my statement posted. I added my pension, my savings, the new buckets, the cash. I ran the line with a calm hand, then ran it again. Total net worth, $518,000. I set the pen down. Let that sentence sit in the quiet. Years of double shifts. Years of I'll cover it. Years of believing care meant open taps. I hadn't undone those years. I had redirected the stream. Evelyn knocked and peeked in with more oranges. You look like someone who just finished a long hallway. I reached a door. It opens to a boring room. She laughed. Boring rooms are where peace naps. We peeled oranges at the table. I told her I'd sold the studio, told her about the map. She told me someone at church had started a rumor that I won the lottery. You didn't, she said. You did math. Math and paper, and silence when silence helped. The next day, a woman named Bridget called. Evelyn's friend, as it turned out. I hear you kept receipts, she said. People need stories with receipts. Would you ever write yours? I don't want revenge. Good. We don't publish revenge. We publish solutions. You can change names, change dates, keep your dignity and their privacy. Think of it as a ledger with dialogue. I'll think. After we ended, I wrote book on a sticky note and tucked it under the edge of my notepad where only I would see it. Mark texted that afternoon. Mark, I heard you sold the studio, so you're fine. Why press us so hard? I didn't answer. The map on the wall had no arrow labeled appease. He tried again. Mark, we found a small rental. Twins are adjusting. We're okay. I put a check mark beside that line in my notebook. Adults making adult decisions. I took Ruth to lunch when she passed through town visiting a cousin. She wore new walking shoes and a grin. Tell me a true thing, she said as we split a sandwich. My shoulders don't jump at my phone anymore. That's worth more than whatever you wrote in your ledger. Both help. In the evening, I cooked mushrooms and garlic and stirred them into rice. I ate at the table with the window cracked for air. Night came in clean. At 9, my phone buzzed. Unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail. Then a text from Evelyn. Evelyn, I gave your number to someone who asked kindly. Don't be mad. Another text followed from a number I didn't have saved. Pastor Lane. Ms. Harper, this is Pastor Lane. Erin asked me to reach out. She wonders if you'd meet for coffee with me present. No ambush, no money talk, just human. I stared at the screen, looked at the rules taped to my wall, looked at the blue folder, the map sleeve, the neat stacks. The phone buzzed again. Pastor Lane, if not now, perhaps next week, or not at all, your call. I read Pastor Lane's message twice, set the phone down, looked at the card taped to my wall. The rules faced me like calm friends. I answered, 1 hour, public place. You present the whole time, no money talk. If that happens, I leave. He replied within a minute. Agreed. The cafe sat on a corner with wide windows and slow ceiling fans. I arrived 10 minutes early and took the table by the fern. Pastor Lane came in with a kind face and a careful tie. Thank you for coming. Thank you for ground rules. Erin walked in on the hour. No makeup, hair pulled back. She glanced at me, then at the pastor, then at the table. She didn't sit until he gestured. She kept her bag on her lap like a shield. You look well, I said. True and small. She nodded once. We found a rental close to school. The twins start art club next week. I'm glad, she inhaled. Pastor said I could say a thing, then you could say a thing, and we'd keep it clean. She looked at him. He gave a small nod. She fixed her eyes on the fern. I said ugly words on my birthday. I can say that out loud. I was tired and angry and stupid. I am sorry. The last word came out flat, like a pill she wasn't sure would help. Thank you, I said. I let the quiet sit. She rubbed the bag strap. And you? She stopped and looked at the pastor. Do I have to keep this only about words? No money talk? He reminded gently, impact, not invoices. She swallowed. You did a hard thing. You wrote letters. You closed accounts. You let the bank do what banks do. It felt like punishment. It still does sometimes. I know you'll say it wasn't. I'm telling you how it felt. That's fair, I said. They said. Feelings can be true without being instructions. She stared at me. You always say sentences like that. Almost a smile. almost a bite. Fine, my turn is over. I'll say mine, I said. Then we can decide if more exists today. I folded my hands, kept my voice level. My love for you is not a question. It is the first line in every ledger. I got lost and made money the proof. I am sorry for that part. I am not sorry for closing taps that drowned us both. She blinked fast, then stilled. Okay. I will not discuss past bills, I said. I will not open accounts. I will not be a secret budget line. I will not be insulted in order to be forgiven later. That door is shut. She nodded once, jaw tight. I hear it. I will see my grandchildren without errands attached. If you want that, we can plan set times, public places, no money talk. If money comes up, the visit ends and we try again next week. I can do that, she said quickly. They miss you. I miss them. She looked at the pastor again. He stayed quiet, the right kind of quiet. One more, I said. If you want advice, ask me in writing. If you don't want advice, don't ask and I won't offer. I am learning to let silence do work I used to force. That would help, she said, surprisingly soft. Your texts at dawn felt like pop quizzes. I wake early. I can write in a notebook instead. She let a breath out. Okay. We sat with our hands around warm cups. Outside, a bus wheezed. Inside, a grinder whirred and stopped. I can apologize for one thing, I said. Not for the foreclosure, not for the letter. For the way I trained you to think care meant yes. I taught that too well. She pressed her lips together and nodded once. I learned it. I used it. I'm not proud. Pastor Lane folded his napkin. Would it help to write what each of you is committing to for the next 60 days? Simple. No adjectives. Aaron glanced at me. I nodded. He slid a card across the table in a pen. I wrote, Sundays 3 to 4 p.m., park by the library. I bring snacks. No money talk. If it starts, I end the visit. I pushed the pen to her. She wrote, no texts after 8 p.m., no surprise visits. If I need help, I ask in writing and accept a no. She pushed the pen back. We signed the card like a tiny treaty, took photos with our phones. Pastor Lane smiled at the smallest possible volume. Good. Pilot agreements. We revisit in 2 months. Aaron looked at me, then down. I don't know how to be with you without asking for things. Honest in a way that stung. I'll try. I don't know how to be with you without offering things, I said. I'll try. She stood first. I have to pick up the twins. Thank you for not making this a scene. Thank you for coming on time. We left together, then apart on the sidewalk. The sky was the color of dishwater, then brightened along the edge. Back home, I wrote the new rules on a card and taped it next to the old ones. I called Evelyn. Sundays at the park, 1 hour, no errands. Good, bring the big blanket. Grass stains wash. I sent Pastor Lane a short thank you. He answered with a blessing that didn't feel like a leash. The first Sunday, the twins ran to me with stiff arms that loosened by minute 10. We played I Spy, ate apple slices, told the truth about tiny things. Loose teeth, a mean gym teacher, a book with a sad dog that was somehow still funny. Erin sat on the bench nearby, read her phone, sometimes looked up. We all did fine. At minute 58, she said, "Can I ask a question not about money?" "Yes." "Do you want to read at the twins class next month? Visitors get 10 minutes. They like when Nana voices the animals." "I do. Send the date. I'll clear it." She nodded. The twins made a fort out of the blanket. We timed how long it took to crawl under and pop out like moles. When the hour ended, I stood. "I'm leaving on time. I'll see you next Sunday." The second Sunday, it rained. We met under the library awning and played a card game. Erin laughed once at a face her daughter made, then glanced at me as if laughter were a secret she owed me. "Keep it," I said. "Use it for fuel." She didn't understand, but she didn't argue. On a Tuesday, Bridget sent a contract draft with large, friendly margins. Change names, shift dates, keep receipts. We'll protect your privacy. You can publish under a pen name. Title ideas welcome. I stared at the blank line where a title should go. I thought of my notepad pages, their neat boxes and steady digits. I thought of the lake and the scarf, of letters and locks, of a card signed in a cafe under a fern. I wrote back. Working title, what I paid, what I kept. She replied with a yes that sounded like a door that doesn't squeak anymore. Mr. Meyer sent a short check-in. Transfers landed. Ignore noise. Walk your map. I printed it and slid it behind the tape. Boredom hummed like a fridge. Steady. Easy to forget until the power goes out. Alan met me once more to finalize the last filing. Documents are better than drama, he said in the doorway, smiling because he'd said it before and I had listened. Call me if a new skirmish shows up, otherwise go live. I went to the pantry and tied rice bags with Evelyn. We measured with scoops until the boxes turned into neat rows. Your face is different, she said. Less flinch, more rest. The third Sunday at the park, Erin handed me a paper cup of coffee from the place on the corner. They had a special. Caramel something. Thank you. It was too sweet. I drank it anyway. She stayed standing. No money talk, she said, reminding herself, not me. Her mouth worked around a thought. I applied for a medical billing course. Night classes. Mark covers those evenings. It's boring. Boring pays, I said. She looked at me without hostility. Only calculation, and maybe a pinch of hope. You won't pay for it. It wasn't a question. I'll bring muffins next week. Blueberry. She huffed a laugh. Fine. After they left, I walked the long way home. Took the good street with tall trees and porch swings. On one porch, a woman brushed a dog with firm, happy strokes. At another, a boy read a book upside down, then right side up. Ordinary mercy. At my table, I opened the blue folder. I didn't need anything from it. I watched my hands not reach for it. Then I took out the small notebook I hadn't used in a week and wrote a page that didn't have numbers. It had verbs: walk, call, read, cook, sort, write, rest. Bridget called with a small editorial note. Your voice is dignified. Keep it even when you write anger. Anger is fuel. Dignity is the road. I can do that. Later, Pastor Lane emailed. I'm here if you need a referee. I typed, we're okay this week, and meant it. I sent a small letter to Hearts and Hands Foundation with the Trust's first disbursement, a scholarship in honor of no one famous. The director sent back a photo of 2 teenagers with lanyards and shy smiles. They start apprenticeships next month. They needed bus passes and shoes. I printed the picture and taped it next to the rules. It was not a trophy. It was a receipt for a different kind of ledger. The 4th Sunday, the twins brought a library book with animals. I voiced the bear as sleepy and the fox as a polite thief. Erin rolled her eyes and smiled without hiding it. When the hour was up, I packed the blanket and stood. Erin shifted her bag on her shoulder, looked at me like a person who has rehearsed a sentence and isn't sure if it will land. I can't promise I won't ever ask for money. I can promise I won't dress a demand like love. I can't promise I won't ever want to fix. I can promise I won't confuse fixing with love. She nodded. Okay. We walked to the corner together, then turned in opposite directions. The day held. At home, I moved the rules card an inch to the left to make room for a new line. I wrote it clean. Love without conditions. Help with conditions. I set down the pen. I opened the window. The room filled with air I did not have to earn. The locks held. The door stayed open the right way.